Mountains back there, the other side of which is where we were climbing yesterday, past White Sands, New Mexico also. So this is I think pretty cool addition of well, let's say a day with Mark, because I've honestly just lost interest for a couple of weeks in kind of almost everything. And I have those times, like anybody. So I'm sorry these video entries have not been ridiculously consistent as I promised you and promised myself. But that's part of what this day today is about, this entry, because those things happen and they're not fatal. And I mean go-allistically fatal, if that's a word. It's very much like, okay, so it's exactly like you miss some workouts, which I'm much better about not ever doing pretty much my whole life. Can't say that I've ever had any significant gap in that. And that's why I start with success when I try to organize my life. I have 9 areas of life, which I call the 9 lives. And the reason I do fitness first is not because I think it's more important than the other areas like relational, spiritual, and I mean spiritual with a big S, not pop culture's little s spirituality. I'm trying to find a good place to set this camera up. I don't even know how good that is. Can't really see it. Probably not great, but at least I've got a microphone that I know will pick up no matter where I walk. But anyway, what I wanted to share is this. Number one, it's exactly like if you missed a few days or a few weeks or a few months or a few years of working out. That doesn't mean that you can't start. Doesn't mean that you should not start and experience that success. If you haven't had it yet, go get it. So too with this, because I really am intent on becoming a content creator, and we'll see what utility that has, and see how desirable that is for others. When I've expressed myself, I've mostly gotten good feedback, except from, of course, the predictable people who can't give that for their own various reasons. But I've had positive reinforcement all my life from the people whose opinions I cared about. And that's what I care about. Those are the opinions that I care about. The Clays of the world, the ACs of the world, the Dans of the world, and there are about 5 of those, by the way. But, the Jims, the Erics, these people are the ones who come first and foremost to my mind. But anyway, I've pretty much stopped listening to music altogether. Music evokes memories that I don't always like to have revisited, and there are just too many of them, songs that do that. So I've started almost exclusively listening to podcasts and YouTube documentaries and such as that. And one of my favorite go-tos, of course, is Jordan Peterson. That's not a big surprise to a lot of you or most of you. But the one I was listening to this morning, he was just discussing how you can put your life into a structure that you like and make a life that you want to make. And it's always very gratifying to me when I hear an A-lister like that talking about realizations that I've already come to. Not that I know everything, it's just very validating when that happens. It happens in fitness with Eric Hurst, too, and Hans, and others like that. And when I read something that's very complex, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's said in a different way, but I did discover that from field testing when I was 15 years old. Or in the Army, going through things. So, it's fashionable, right? But what was really, and this is what I want to end with, this is the punchline, what was really cool about this morning was, despite having been in a very low place in the last few weeks, I set off on this run. The properly scheduled one. It happened when it was supposed to happen. And so I left the hotel. I'm here in New Mexico working. I'm going back home today, later in this afternoon. But I left my hotel for a run. The idea was to go out 27 and a half minutes, as I usually do, and then turn around if I do an out and back, because I want to run 55 minutes. That's what I do. And so as I'm running, I hit 18 minutes, and I see this really big, it looks like a hill compared to the Oregon mountains, but it's a mountain. We would call this a mountain in the southeast for sure. And two things I realized. Number one was I still, despite the low place, have this personality that can't not run up that hill. It's just like when I meant to go up to Nevada Falls in Yosemite and turn around. Well, you get halfway close to Nevada Falls and you look to your left and you see Half Dome. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to have to go up there. And it turns into an 18-mile round-trip run to the top of Half Dome from Curry Village. And that's something I've always had to do. I don't really have much choice. And number one, that's a healthy thing. And it's something that is going to promote, if not success, then improvement. And that's actually something just Jordan Peterson was talking about this morning, is that you don't have to lay upon yourself this goal, because goals become judgments, or an ideal is the word he used. And so if you haven't hit the ideal, your aim should instead be improvement. Because what's better than that every day? And what he says in other videos I've seen is 1% better person every day. And that's sustainable. And you will become better. And, that just might be the path to the ideal. And what's cool, certainly you can't stay there. You're going to fall off that horse sometimes. But guess what you do? You get back on it. That's why they have that phrase, right? That's why these things become cliche proverbs. Because they're good deals. So the last thing is this. As I ran up that hill, it looked like a very big hill. And it looks like something that would be very, very challenging, if not impossible, to run all the way up. And so as I started to, I found something that I have found 1,000 times in my life, is that running up a hill, even if it's very big and steep looking from the ground, once you get on the path, you find out that it actually doesn't stay steep the entire time. And it's actually very doable for that reason. And it's a very perfect metaphor for setting intermediate goals. Because if you're just putting that one foot in front of the other, where you are, you end up high. Even with the most gradual of inclines. So seek out the incline to get to the higher places. And the other thing about that too is when you're on a climb, if you're on a climb that's halfway something that you have business being on, just when you think that you're about to make or try to make a move that you're not going to be able to make, instead of just letting go and hanging on the rope or jumping off of the boulder problem because the ground is right there and you're like, it looks inviting because you're tired, stick with it for a few more moves, and chances are if it's a climb you have a business being on, if it's a reasonable goal, it's probably going to be a rest hold pretty soon if you stick with it. So instead of stopping, just find that rest hold, I call them lifeboats, and just climb to them. Make 2 or 3 moves because they're probably within that realm, that range. If you'll zoom out your focus and not get tunnel visioned because of stress, that's another lesson, you'll probably see it. And then just climb relentlessly towards it. Running up a hill like this is similar too. It has a steep section that feels impossible, but if you'll just, and fine, slow down, but just keep running. It can be a really slow run, but keep running, and it'll probably level out and not be so steep in just a little while, you know? Anyway, everything's like that. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. I gotta get back downstairs so I can get with Kenny, go to the airport, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope to see you guys out at the Country's Midnight Run. This weekend, we'll have the portable climbing wall there, and the Silks team is going to be performing at our favorite spot on the billboard. and I'm going to run it again, of course, as always. So hope to see you there. Come look for us. I'm Mark, and this is sort of Mondays with Mark.